Yes, yes, Sir Hairless here. We are back with Dimash, and this is a song called OK. It's from 2022, and we'll be watching a music video rather than a live performance. The music is by Igor Krutoy. We've seen multiple performances by Dimash of Igor's music. All of them are great. They're super interesting for reasons I would have explained in those videos. I don't think I need to say too much more on this one, really. Here are the lyrics, and it looks like it will be sung in Russian. I'm expecting something emotional here based on these lyrics. So without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Две судьбы, два пути.
The air. Oh.
Могли мы друг друга не найти. Этот мир был цветным, только ты счастлива с другим. Все это было, ведь ты любила. Пусть будет так, окей.
I think based on the lyrics that we saw before, this is now the chorus. We're about a minute in, actually. That went by really quickly. And as this is a video, the copyright will probably be a lot stricter. Sometimes it can be extremely strict with live performances, but it just depends. Music videos nearly always are quite strict. So we're going to do a pause here, go over some of what we've heard so far. If you don't want to hear my thoughts or analysis, go to the timestamp. You know what? I really like that. We've only just heard one verse, but already it's interesting. The music video, especially the contrast of the colors that we're getting, this kind of sepia yellowy feel. And then when it has the outdoor shots through a tunnel, this is reminding me a lot of World War II films. I can imagine this being somewhere in Eastern Europe and members of the Axis raiding, storming. So that's cool. Certainly interesting. You never know what you're going to get with Dimash. I've come to learn that. By the way, I did receive a few comments actually linking me to a behind the scenes video of this video. So after this reaction, we will watch that behind the scenes video. If you're interested, head on over to the link in the pinned comment because this full video will be over on my Patreon. The music as well. The obvious effect that we have. The swelling effect. And these swellings naturally are essentially alterations in volume, loud to quiet, and each alteration rhythmically is not matching up perfectly with the common time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm sure if we dug into the frequencies of these sounds we're hearing, there'd be so many, which gives it this really quite eerie effect. If you're listening with headphones as well, I'm sure the effect will be far greater than listening through speakers. So this swelling effect is very much enhanced by the fact that the music is very bare. We just have a few chords. Even though there's change in the piano, the chord is the same. We're still hearing A minor, which is the key of the song, it seems. So the top note just goes, still using the notes from A minor. Then the next chord changes twice. So simply what we're hearing is A minor and then D minor and then E major, and then we go back to A. Because A is our home key, number 1, E is the 5th note of A. So moving from the chord of E, we can think of as 5 to 1, which is called a perfect cadence. A cadence because it's like the end of something. It brings closure. It sounds very natural. Bom, bom, and then the 3 chords repeat. As we saw, we have the first chord, A minor, and then the next chord was D. And even though it sounds so simple, it's not actually just a simple D minor chord. Because what we're hearing is this, which are both notes of the D chord. The final note to complete the D chord would be an A. But we're not hearing this A. We're actually hearing this B. And as you can see by these 3 notes, this is actually a B diminished chord, not a D chord. I won't get into the theory behind this. I believe this is a D chord, just with this B added in, but they're just not playing this A, because 3 notes is fewer than 4 notes, which gives it a bit more of a reduced and bare feel. And then the final chord, E, that chromatic fall in the bass line, but we can still hear, which is this note. The 7th note of E, turning it into, therefore, a 7th chord. Please don't worry about the theory. Basically, this is just a non-standard version of the E chord. So, very simple opening, very simple chords. But funnily enough, even though they sound very simple and bare, they are not standard. From the music I've heard of Igor Krutoy before, this is very typical of him. He loves his harmony. He loves playing around with the chords, making them interesting, not just simple and, one might argue, boring. Then we have the beat coming in. Very modern. It reminds me of music that might be used in films such as The Matrix. If you have seen the film or know the music, you'll know what I mean. I can't show more than a few seconds of that, again, because of copyright, unfortunately. So we have simple piano harmony, very reduced, but then we have clearly the use of technology, the swelling effects, modern beats, and extreme airy voice by Dimash. If you've seen my Dimash videos before, you'll know that I say I love it when he uses his airy voice. I think it's so much more powerful in conveying emotion than just regular singing. Of course, it depends on context, but in situations like this where the music is quiet and soft and calm, the video complements it. A very romantic video at this point, expressive of love. And now we get the deep bass coming in, dum, 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 really serving a percussive purpose as well on every beat, cha, 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 like you'd see in modern techno music, for example. Play that out of a huge speaker and you can really feel it rather than just hearing it. So a lot of these musical elements actually point towards intense emotion that make you go, But the music at this point is uplifting. Notice the change to the major now. Major, usually associated with happy, interesting the lyrics, but you are happy with someone else. Quite sad, actually. And Dimash's melody is falling. Moving up is usually a positive thing, falling usually a negative thing. So we have this dichotomy of happy and sad here. And the rhythmic differences as well between the strict cha, 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 and Dimash, dum, bum, bum, creating a bit of syncopation in there. So much air in his voice, vibrato coming through. Yeah, I'm liking this song so far. The chorus looked quite exciting, a bit more upbeat, so let's carry on. Some not so nice things perhaps happening there in the video. It's a nice video. Again, the as obvious as contrasting images you can get. The same place, same woman, different lighting, different man. different emotions. The video really is giving me strong atrocities vibes, if I can say that. Very redolent of a lot of films or documentaries I've seen of, well, the World War II, the Holocaust, that kind of thing comes to mind. Very sad. The song, really interesting. I do like it. And I think this one could either grow on me the more I listen to it or the opposite, because there aren't too many new musical ideas, which is fine. There don't always have to be. Songs don't have to always give you a real shock factor. And with Dimash, you know, when he goes and sings notes that we think it would not be possible to be sung by men, then maybe we become a bit desensitized to Dimash and his unbelievable range. And maybe even it becomes an expectation. I, for one, like songs like this that are different. We haven't seen much of his range used. Instead, he's really focusing on how he's singing. A lot of air, slow vibrato. It's a very carefully constructed song, I think, even though overall it's quite simple. Not as simple as it might seem, though. The chorus I found really interesting. Let's go back into the harmony. So if we remember the first three chords we spoke about, the start of the song, standard A chord, A minor. There, that was a D chord with the sixth note in, but the fifth note removed. And then an E dominant seventh chord, so we have the seventh note in there. They sound simple, but they are non-standard, and that's exactly the same for the chorus. This is an A minor chord. We are in A minor, the home key of the song. We can hear the A in the bass. That's that techno beat type sound. Dum, 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 dum. So let's put in our A chord. And the notes that make up an A minor chord are A, C, and E. Dimash's melody is E. That fits in the chord, but then he jumps up to here and back and forth. And even though he is singing down the octave, there is actually the melody sung up the octave very, very quietly. So together, having this part doubled in octaves gives it a bit more conviction. Why? Well, this B completely clashes with the A chord. Right next to the A, if A is note number 1, then this is note number 2, called the supertonic. So basically, it's this A minor chord with the second note also in there. Dissonance. What's next? We hear the bass part moving down. Bum, bum. A to F. So we now have an F major chord. But Dimash's melody is still doing this E to B. So when you add them into this F chord, look at that. It's like someone's just pressing down on the piano. Intense dissonance. To further the dissonance, if we take the root note F and Dimash keeps returning up to this B, this is called a tritone. If you've seen my videos before, you've probably heard me talk about this. This interval, many centuries ago, was called Diabolus in Musica, or translating to the devil in music, because of how peculiar and it is. The reason this is peculiar, the scale of F is this. I'm sure you noticed this note was played and not this one. So jumping between, this note that's not in the scale again just really adds to the obviousness of the dissonance. And then finally the next chord. We can see that Dimash is no longer going. He's now going. So why has he adjusted it? Well, the new chord that we're hearing is D minor. That first note is part of D, but the second note is not, creating this seventh chord. More interesting harmonic progressions here. I'm not going to go into every chord because we'll just be here all day. I didn't actually want to go into as much theory as I already have, so apologies for that. But we can hear that these harmonies, the chords, the order in which they come, they are very non-standard. You won't get the same progression in the majority of pop songs out there. This is typical of Igor Krutoy, very interesting. And as well, the instrumentation in the background, we're now starting to get additional piano parts, just giving some more rhythmic energy in the background. Can you hear high up? That kind of idea. And what I was talking about before, reminding me of The Matrix. The clip I showed before, it goes like this. Repeated notes, non-standard chords, dissonance, very, very similar. What happens slightly after that? The exact type of figure we are hearing in the piano high up in the background. Listen out for it carefully here. That's just one new addition. We also have what sounds like breaths, acting as some sort of percussive device, like a beat. Or maybe more of a do, do type of sound. Well, I'm curious to see what happens with the rest of this one. It's potentially not looking good. So let's carry on until the end. There's about 1 minute left. If you enjoy these videos or find them helpful, please consider supporting me. Patreon has a bunch of exclusive benefits, behind the scenes videos, additional reaction content, Q&A videos, and more. For a one-time donation, you can donate me a hot chocolate at the Buy Me a Coffee link, or become a YouTube member for these groovy emojis and membership badges. And a huge thank you to these lovely people on the screen now.
Я ухожу, окей. Была в судьбе моей, ты как вспышка в небеса. Не плачь и не жалей, просто утри скорей горькие слезы на глазах. Я ухожу, окей. Была в судьбе моей, ты как вспышка в небеса. Не плачь и не жалей, просто утри скорей горькие слезы на глазах.
No. Who gets shot? Her or him? Well, the tension was definitely building in that last section there. I almost forgot I was watching or listening to a music video there. It was like a film, very, very high quality. When you see his foot step out from the car there, you know that Dimash and the girl are not going to get away that easily. That's not how life works, especially in this sort of dystopian video we have here. And listen to what comes in the instrumentation when the foot steps out. I mean, ignore that noise, but that kind of sound. And it keeps repeating. Sorry, me doing this is like imitating sliding up a fretboard of an electric guitar or something. Really, really interesting. And all the meanwhile, we're still getting new musical ideas. Up the octave for a bit more syncopation. A lot of tension in that ending there. In terms of the harmony, the chords, no new harmony or chords. It's all stuff that we have heard before that we've discussed. And I completely see why, especially with a music video like this, you don't want to be bombarding the listener with these crazy harmonies, these key changes, all that kind of stuff that we might typically see with Igor's music. It's certainly not standard, and it certainly is interesting, but relatively reserved, at least compared to some of the other music by him I've heard. Yeah, overall, I thought that was a really interesting song. I am definitely going to be listening to this many more times. I want to see how my opinion on it changes. Will this become one of those songs that I can just listen to over and over and over? Or will it become one that maybe loses its authenticity after a certain number of listens? Well, I can't do that just yet because, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a behind the scenes video to watch now. So if you want to watch that with me, see how this video was made, head on over to the link in the pinned comment. And if not, thank you as always for watching. Would appreciate a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you next time.